Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925, in Kingston, Texas, into a life marked by hardship from the very start. He was the seventh of 12 children in a sharecropping family that struggled to survive during the Great Depression. His father abandoned the family when Audie was still young, leaving his mother, Josie Bell Murphy, to raise the children alone under crushing poverty. When Audie was just 16, tragedy struck again with his mother's death, forcing him to quit school after the 5th grade. Suddenly orphaned, he took on farm work and odd jobs to support his younger siblings, sacrificing his own childhood in the process. These formative years shaped his sense of duty, resilience, and quiet strength. Long before he wore a uniform, Audie Murphy learned survival, responsibility, and endurance the hard way, lessons that would later define his extraordinary life. A small frame and an unbreakable will. In 1942, with World War II raging, Audie Murphy was determined to serve his country despite significant obstacles. At just 5 feet 5 inches tall and barely over 110 pounds, he was initially rejected by both the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps for being underweight. Refusing to give up, he persisted until the U.S. Army accepted him. What he lacked in physical size, he more than made up for with determination, courage, and an iron will. After basic training, Murphy was sent overseas, where he quickly proved himself under fire. Fellow soldiers noticed his calmness in combat and his fierce loyalty to his unit. He was not loud or boastful, but his actions spoke louder than words. On the battlefield, Audie Murphy became a leader, not by rank alone, but by example, earning respect through bravery and unwavering resolve. Valor beyond imagination in World War II, Audie Murphy's wartime service remains one of the most remarkable combat records in American history. Fighting in North Africa, Italy, France, and Germany, he repeatedly displayed extraordinary courage under relentless enemy fire. His most famous act occurred on January 26, 1945, near Holtzwihr, France, when his unit was attacked by a vastly superior German force. Despite being wounded, Murphy climbed onto a burning tank destroyer and used its mounted .50 caliber machine gun to hold off the enemy for nearly an hour while directing artillery fire. Against overwhelming odds, he refused to retreat until his men could regroup. For this action, Murphy received the Medal of Honor at just 19 years old. By the war's end, he had earned every major U.S. combat award for valor, becoming the most decorated American soldier of World War II. Coming home to a different kind of battle. When Audie Murphy returned home, he was celebrated as a national hero, but the applause could not silence the memories of war. Like many veterans of his generation, he suffered deeply from what was then called battle fatigue, now known as post-traumatic stress disorder. Nightmares, insomnia, and emotional strain followed him into civilian life. Unlike many, Murphy chose not to hide his struggles. He openly discussed the psychological toll of combat at a time when such topics were rarely acknowledged. His honesty helped bring attention to veterans' mental health and challenged the idea that bravery meant emotional silence. While the public saw medals and heroism, Murphy lived with invisible wounds that were just as real. His willingness to speak about them made him a quiet pioneer in advocating for better understanding and care for those who had served in war. From war hero to Hollywood leading man, Hollywood soon took interest in Audie Murphy, drawn by both his fame and natural screen presence. Despite having no formal acting training, he transitioned into films with surprising ease. Over the next 2 decades, he appeared in more than 40 movies, often portraying soldiers and Western heroes that mirrored his real-life toughness. His most famous film, To Hell and Back, 1955, was based on his own memoir, with Murphy portraying himself. The film became a major box office success, resonating deeply with post-war audiences. Despite this achievement, Murphy remained humble about his acting abilities, often describing himself as simply doing a job. Beyond acting, he wrote country and Western songs recorded by artists such as Dean Martin and Charlie Pride. Hollywood offered Murphy success, but it never erased the seriousness and modesty that defined him. Defining a legacy in Western cinema. Throughout the late 1950s and 1960s, Audie Murphy became a familiar and respected face in Western films. a genre that suited his quiet intensity and moral clarity. Movies like No Name on the Bullet showcased a more complex side of his acting, earning critical praise for his restrained yet powerful performances. Murphy often played men shaped by violence but guided by principle, characters that reflected his own life experiences. He worked with respected writers and directors, forming lasting creative partnerships that strengthened his career. Beyond films, Murphy appeared on television and supported military programs such as The Big Picture, blending entertainment with public service. His contribution to these efforts earned him the Army's Outstanding Civilian Service Medal. While he never sought stardom for its own sake, Murphy's consistent work and integrity earned him lasting respect within the industry. Love, marriage, and the search for stability, Audie Murphy's personal life reflected the same mixture of intensity and vulnerability seen in his career. His first marriage to actress Wanda Hendricks in 1949 was highly publicized, but short-lived, strained by fame, emotional struggles, and the pressures of Hollywood. The couple divorced in 1951. Shortly afterward, Murphy married Pamela Opal Lee Archer, a former airline stewardess whose grounded nature brought balance to his life. Together, they built a family and raised two sons, Terry Michael and James Shannon. Family life provided Murphy with a sense of normalcy that had long been absent. Although his inner battles never fully disappeared, his role as a husband and father became deeply important to him. Pamela's steady support helped him navigate fame and trauma, offering a private refuge from the demands of public life and a source of enduring strength. A tragic flight and an untimely end. On May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy's life came to a sudden and tragic end. He was a passenger aboard a small private aircraft that crashed into Brush Mountain near Catawba, Virginia, during poor weather conditions. Official investigations concluded that the crash was caused by pilot error and limited visibility in mountainous terrain. Murphy was only 45 years old. The news shocked the nation, ending the life of a man who had survived extraordinary dangers in war only to be lost in peacetime. He was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, where his grave remains one of the most visited. In death, as in life, Murphy inspired reflection on courage, sacrifice, and the cost of service. His passing marked the loss of not only a decorated soldier, but a symbol of an entire generation. The meaning of Audie. Murphy's legacy. Audie Murphy's story endures not because of myths or mysteries, but because of the truth of his character. He rose from poverty and personal tragedy to become a symbol of courage, humility, and resilience. On the battlefield, he demonstrated heroism beyond measure. In civilian life, he showed honesty about pain, commitment to family, and respect for those who served beside him. His openness about the emotional toll of war helped shift public understanding and laid groundwork for future conversations about veterans' mental health. Murphy never glorified violence, nor did he seek personal praise. Instead, he carried his experiences quietly, with dignity and responsibility. Today, he is remembered not only as the most decorated American soldier of World War II, but as a deeply human figure whose life reminds us that true heroism includes vulnerability, compassion, and the courage to endure long after the war ends.